Chelsea Ramirez, and her presentation will be on rethinking development.
Hi guys, my name is Chelsea Ramirez, for those of you who don't know me. Today I'm going to be discussing development, specifically international development, United States international development aid. So I was inspired to do a capstone on this topic because I spent last summer with the Department of State in Bolivia. While I was there, I got the opportunity to travel to Bando, which is a small region in the Amazon in Bolivia. And during my time there, I was taken to look at previous USAID programs. So USAID was kicked out of Bolivia a few years back, for those of you who don't know that. And it's been kicked out of multiple countries in Latin America and around the world because of the way our development aid is driven. But there are a lot of good programs that come out of it. So let's take a moment to watch a video about development aid and the purposes of development aid that was created by CARE, a leading humanitarian aid organization. Nope. So.
U.S. foreign assistance helps people affected by natural disasters by providing shelter, water, and food. In struggling communities, girls have access to education, women can safely deliver their babies in clinics, and farmers have seeds to grow their own crops. But how much does it all cost? Surveys have shown that many Americans think that 28% of their tax dollars goes to foreign assistance, but in reality, it's only 1%, and only about half of that goes to fight poverty. It's hard to imagine what that 0.5% must look like. But that same 0.5%, used the right way, can move mountains. If you plant 0.5% of an ear of corn, those 4 kernels can grow to feed an entire village. That 0.5% can go on to save millions of lives. Still, that 0.5% is not enough. What if Americans knew how much change was happening with only 0.5% and acted to help that 0.5% grow? Those 4 kernels could allow a farmer to employ more farmers. Those farmers can then begin trading with other villages to help build self-sufficient communities. Imagine how many people's lives can be made better, how many mouths can be fed, how many children can be saved. You don't have to imagine it. Here's the truth. Each year, more than 100 million children receive basic immunizations, and every additional year of secondary schooling allows a girl the ability to boost her income by as much as 25%, marry later, and invest in her community. Millions of people, a majority of them women, have greater opportunities for generating income and creating greater financial stability. By voicing our support for U.S. foreign assistance, organizations like CARE can give more families and more communities the tools they need to lift themselves out of poverty. And that's good for all of us, because safer, more stable, and more prosperous developing countries create a better, safer world for everyone. Please join CARE's effort to deliver lasting change by supporting increased U.S. foreign assistance. Empowering people has lasting effects. Together, we can make sure that no one goes to bed hungry.
Cool. Alright, so let's go back to my story in Bolivia. The project that they specifically took me to in Bolivia was the USAID was there to bring running water to communities in rural areas in the Amazon. This was abandoned as soon as USAID left because the government in power believed that it was against their government for them to give water to these communities because the USA thought of it first. I'm arguing, in my capstone basically, that development aid is a good thing. So there's a lot of positive things, as you saw in the video, that come out of development aid. But the U.S. should change the way it does development aid. We openly admit that our development aid is politically driven. And that's not okay. So, clearly it's poorly funded. But in order to get more funding, I think if we come together and change the way that we look at aid, we can get more funding and create projects that will help humanity. Development aid was on a steady decline after September 11th, until September 11th. And after the consequential events, the Bush administration and the Obama administration decided to make development on par with defense and policy. So the changes emphasized international development in a new way. It gained a lot of importance and it gained a lot of funding. But it also pushed ground level programming, the ground level programming being the projects that they did in these developing countries, to be defense oriented and politically driven. So a lot of you are probably saying, well, development aid has always been politically driven in its entire history, which for the USA, it's true. It has always been politically driven. And you can argue that you can see that for the war on communism. When we were against communism, we literally used our development to implement programs to show countries that we were better than the Soviet Union. The war on drugs is very similar, and now the war on terror. So why should we change it when it's been this way for so long? Because development should not be for the purpose of national security. It should not be for the purposes of politics or defense, but it should be for the purpose of helping others to better our world and create opportunities. Nobel Prize recipient Amartya Sen created the capabilities approach. It is a theory of development that focuses on 5 fundamental freedoms: political freedoms, economic facilities, social opportunities, transparency guarantees, and protected security. Political freedoms refers to having the opportunity to decide who governs and on what principles they govern. Economic facilities gives access to resources for consumption, production, and trade. Social opportunity is the access people have to education, healthcare, property rights, gender equity, and other essential services to living a life where basic needs are met. Transparency guarantees are the ability to access information needed for judicial cases, ability to seek justice through an established system, and the ability to have a system free of corruption. Protective security occurs when governing bodies provide a social safety net from poverty, war, natural disasters, and other forms of deprivation. So I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, the United States doesn't even do some of these things, which doesn't. So that's why we need to change. Development happens when these 5 freedoms are interlinked. The model moves away from the economic development models of the past and creates a holistic approach that emphasizes a person's capabilities to reach their fundamental freedoms. I argue that we should adopt this model and attempt to apply it to U.S. international development aid projects abroad. The closest attempt so far that the U.S. has had to this is USAID Forward, which is through the Obama administration. It is a recent attempt. In 2010, it was announced, and it has 4 initiatives, which is returning policy and budget capacity to the agency, which was taken away when the State Department took it under its wing. Increased focus on the sustainability of the development programs, stress the importance of science, technology, and innovation, and develop country cooperation development strategies, which ask local communities to help create on par with the U.S. government. Despite the initiatives, USA Forward falls short of the capabilities approach. It has numerous small programs in many countries that lack transparency, And they also do not integrate development approaches due to a bureaucratic system that favors issue-based solutions and emphasizes national security impact. So we need to change. Humans play a dual role in society as beneficiaries and producers. As Marcus Sen said, we must focus on production and prosperity as the essence of progress, treating people as a means through which that productive progress is brought about rather than seeing the lives of people as the ultimate concern, and treating production and prosperity as a means to those lives. The movement towards freedoms and capabilities requires domestic and international effort to rethink development, and it starts with us. It is a complicated and difficult task, and in theory, it is possible. But it requires the minds and commitment of our nation's citizens and leaders, as well as the citizens and leaders of the aid recipients. Inadequate processes and opportunities cause a lack of freedom which hinder development. The goal of the United States must not be to benefit politically in the short term, but to tackle the inadequacies these nations face in order to benefit the entire world in the long run. Questions?
So do other countries have aid programs that are more beneficial?
So I did look a bit into that because my focus was on the United States. But according to my research, Germany and the United States were the first countries to outright say that our development aid is for political purposes, and we will give you development aid if it benefits us politically and in our defense. But there are some countries that are seen as more holistic approaches in development, which supposedly have less bias. But realistically, most countries have some form of politics that intertwines with the way they give development aid, because it is money given from one country to another, or programs given from one country to another. So I would say that there are probably a few countries that do it more holistically, but logically, you're not about to go send your citizens into a country that is not your ally.